Hi, my name is Jayln Bishop, and I've always grown up religious, more of a Bible based religion, not spiritual. Came from a long line of pastors. My grandmother was a pastor, my great grandfather was a pastor. I was in Pentecostal church most of my life, which is Church of God in Christ, and then Baptist for the probably about teen years. I was a Baptist. And never psychic phenomenon, all of that was completely unheard of. We did not believe in anything of that. It was basically heaven or hell. There was nothing in between. So that's where I was coming from. About 13 years ago, I used to work for a catering company that was based out of a college campus in Golden. And I was the supervisor, and my job was to get people's catering events set up. So basically, an event coordinator. I was going to work, and on that particular day, it was about 5 a.m. And I've gone to work like any other day, and it was a large office, but the office was basically set up as a huge, giant kitchen. So I had gone to work, coming in the loading dock area, and it was just myself and my main supervisor, who was across the campus at the time setting up another event. So it was just me in the kitchen, and I had gone into the office and got some paperwork and was putting it on the board and started to feel really strange. Just, like a weird feeling, not sick, but where you just feel like something's not right. So I continued on with my work and putting paper in each station so people would know what events they were doing. And just continued to feel a weird feeling, but ignored it and kept on with my work. All of a sudden, I was just putting up some cups and getting things ready on a tray, and just heard a loud, audible hide, and kind of freaked out, but I had a walkie talkie on. So at the time, I thought maybe it was my main supervisor. But I knew that it wasn't my main supervisor because it didn't come across the walkie talkie, but there was no other explanation at the time. So I called him on the walkie talkie and asked him, "Hey, did you just call me?" And he said no. And I said, "Well, okay." And then I thought he was playing. So I thought he obviously is here, but the voice was a woman's voice. And so I thought, well, maybe he's just playing and he's inside of the kitchen where I'm at. And so I called him again on the walkie talkie and I said, "Hey, where are you?" And he tells me, "I'm across the campus." Well, I know that he's too far to be where I'm at. So I kind of shook it off as, this was just in my head pretty much, and just keep it going. So I continued to do what I was doing, but still the feeling wasn't leaving. It was still a really nervous or anxiety feeling that I was having, very anxious. So I went into the bakery area, which was a large room, probably about the size of the average living room. But there's only one way in the kitchen or the bakery area, and the doors swing from side to side. And there's everything that you would have in a huge bakery. So as I'm going to put out a tray of muffins, I then hear, "Hide now!" And it was so intense. It was like as if someone was screaming in my face or from the side. And it was so intense that I like dropped the muffins and was like, "Oh my God, what should I do? Should I run? Should I hide?" But I knew at that point that I needed to hide immediately. And there was a crack between the cabinet and the refrigerator, and it was about that big. Clearly not big enough for me to get through. I don't know how I slid sideways. I turned sideways to get through and hid back in the darker part of it. And then knew that somebody had come in. There was footsteps, and I knew someone was in the room with me. And there was a man that had been coming for about 2 or 3 weeks, and he was a mechanic, and he was working on all of the machines. And every time he came, you just felt weird. You felt like, oh, you don't want to be around him. Your skin would crawl, almost your hair would stand up on the back of your head. And no one really wanted to be around him. But he was there fixing a particular machines that we had. And that man was in the room. Now, he wasn't scheduled to be there or anything. And I didn't know what he had in his hands, but I could hear his footsteps, the clink of his boots. And he had something in his hand that must have been some kind of metal, because he was going around the huge table that was in the bakery room with me. And it was just clinking, like click, 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 and you could hear it scraping up against the table. And my heart was beating a mile a minute. But at the same time that my heart was beating that fast, and I was terrified, but I wasn't, because it was almost like there was, I don't know, something calming with me that was like, it's okay, but, stay here, kind of feeling that I felt like it's okay, but just stay hidden. And he stopped, like right in front of where I was. It seemed like he looked right at me, but he didn't see me. I was in the darker part of it, so he didn't see me. He didn't say anything, and then I was beyond scared. I didn't know, what am I going to do? Because I knew he had something, but I know I don't have anything. And then all of a sudden, I heard some of the guys that were my employees that were scheduling to work coming in through the back of the loading dock, laughing and joking because they had reporting to work. And he ran off, so I could just hear the doors like flipping and flopping. And I stayed there for at least 10 to 15 minutes, just making sure that this guy was gone. And then I got out of the place where I was hiding and walked to the guys, and I say, hey, did you see anything? And they say, no. But then we hear the back door slam, which was about 200 feet from where we were. So we knew he was still in there. And the guys helped me check the room and everything. And, it was just such a strange experience. 2 days later, we're doing another catering event and watching television after the event was over and eating. And we were watching America's Most Wanted. This guy was on America's Most Wanted. He was a serial killer. And my boss looked at me and I looked at him, and he was like, oh my God, that's the guy that, we've been having here. And I tell you, my heart was just like, I knew at that point that there was someone from, maybe it was another realm, a spirit, I don't know what it was, but something or someone saved me that day. And from that day forward, if I feel very anxious or start to feel something that is not coming from you, I now listen. So that's my story.